Record here too. Okay. Good morning, Megan.
Good morning.
Yeah. So you're in Bali.
I am. I'm in beautiful Bali. I feel like I need to show you the jungle. Are
Yeah.
you ready for this?
Yeah. Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
So you actually live in the jungle.
I live in the jungle. It's true. Me and Tarzan.
Ah. So how is that going for you, given the strange times we live in?
You know, I feel really lucky actually to be able to be
Mm.
here because I have a sweet little home. I'm here with my dogs and my partner,
Mm.
and so it feels really safe. And there's nature everywhere, which I enjoy. Although sometimes it is hard to be away from my family, but my family is across 3 different continents, so there's no real home.
mm. Mm. So how has your is it a definition, or what does home mean to you now? You think?
Oh,
Mm.
let's see. You know, it's really cliche. Home is where the heart is. But I
Mm.
think for me, home is where people I love are. And
Mm.
so my family is home. Being with my friends is home.
Mm.
Like being here with my partner is home.
Mm.
It's interesting too. It's our first time really living together right now.
Mm.
And so we're doing all these domestic things we haven't done together before, like cooking and cleaning and organizing things. And so that's been fun.
Mm.
I feel like I'm playing house.
and and how is that for you? Given, is this a big step for you, or not really, living with your partner, with a partner?
Uh, it is and it isn't. So
Mm.
I've lived with partners before, but we definitely had resistance to living together initially because it's like that we have so much chemistry and spark and really enjoy our own space. Like, how do
Mm.
we sustain that while living together? And
Mm.
we're like, we don't know. We don't know. So it's kind of been a research experiment in that. And
Mm.
so far, so good.
Mm. Mm. Amazing. Yeah, and actually, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to is I've been seeing that you've been running these retreats in Bali before all this shutdown happened. And I just would like to know, what are these retreats about? And I think I have a feeling this is very important work, especially in the times we're living in. But I just want to hear it from you. What happens with this retreat?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Mm.
Well, the retreat's called Fem Rising. And so
Mm-hmm.
the idea is to help women understand and embrace their own feminine side. And
Mm.
if I just were to put it in context of the globe, I feel like we're doing that as a whole world. Right?
Mm.
Like all of a
Mm.
sudden people are like, we are all connected. And maybe
Mm.
we do need to take better care of the earth. And maybe like creativity is actually our superpower. And
Mm.
and to me, these are like feminine qualities. Right? Because
Mm.
for so long we've been living in like a masculine world of like production, efficiency, goal oriented, linear, get it done.
Mm.
And I think the coronavirus to me, for example, is kind of like hit the end of the rails on that particular mode of operating.
Mm. Mm.
And what the world is asking for is more feminine qualities
Mm.
of empathy, softness, sensitivity,
Mm.
understanding. So all that to be context, and that's what we're working on for the week with the women, is this: how do they embrace their own feminine sides and their own powerful feminine, not like soft, pretty feminine, but like
Mm.
really deep, sexy, emotional, intense, powerful feminine.
Awesome. Yeah, before I ask you the details, there's a few things that came up for me as you were saying that. One is this: I've been looking at how Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, is
Oh,
handling
she's
the
amazing.
situation compared to our Prime Minister in Australia, which is very masculine, Scott from marketing. But anyway, like with Jacinda, I just saw this amazing time where she did a Facebook Live. answering questions of her people. And she just did it on her phone I think she was almost in her pajamas after putting her child to bed. And it's like, this is like the feminine
Yeah.
running things really well. Like she's running kind of really well from the outside. I'm not there in New Zealand, but from what I see, it seems to be going really well. And people seem to feel at ease that she's at the helm. That's one thing
Yeah.
that came up for me. And another thing that came up for me was I was just listening to this video with Jordan Hall, one of the people I trust in these times. And he was talking about that this is the time of the feminine. And he mentioned, I haven't read it, so I want to read it now, the Steinbeck novel, Grapes of Wrath. And he
Yes.
mentioned that in the beginning, like they were like trying to make things work in the planting in this Oklahoma, I think, in the Okies. And then the women were in the house minding the children. But then it was the women who made the call, it's time to move. And then the men just moved. So it's like, when we were learning, the feminine is the power, and the masculine is the execution, but it's the feminine that senses what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful in that novel that it's the feminine who made the call. All right, it's time for us to move. It's not working here. And maybe that's a good way to look at what's happening in the world. Maybe the feminist saying, okay, we've had, I don't know, 50 years of this production oriented. It's time to move to a new one.
Yeah. I love that analogy. That's, I think about that too. And ideally it's in unison, right? The feminine and the masculine work together, just like in the novel. She was like, honey, I feel like it's time to move. Like I sense it's time to move. And he was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right. And then he, I'm sure, helped everyone move. But it's not like we need all masculine or all feminine, but how do we right the imbalances? And start to listen to the softer, more sensitive sides of us. And I love the Jacinda that you brought her up. My partner's actually a Kiwi, so we've been watching those videos too.
Yeah.
And it's so intimate, right? Like, and I think that's one of the gifts of the feminine. She just let us right into her life. She's like, I just put my kids down in my pajamas. Let's just talk human to human.
Yeah.
Without the formality and just
feel
each other.
Do it. Yeah. And and she said it really without the political speak, without the jargon, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I guess a question that came up for me is, like, if I were like an alien observing humans, it would seem strange to me that you need to teach women how to be in their feminine. So why is there a need to do this? It's like, why? What's happening? Yeah.
It's such a good question. So good. I think that we innately have both, right? Masculine and feminine, but we grow up in a world that values masculine qualities over feminine qualities. And so as women, we're particularly responsive to our environments. We're like, okay, what's happening around me? Like, what are the traits that seem to be valued? And so we have these little girls that grow up and they're like, oh, it's really valued to be goal-oriented, to be concise, to be clear, to be directive, to know where I'm taking my life. And so those are the qualities that I'll cultivate inside of myself and demonstrate. And then we have women in their 30s, 40s that are like successful career women. They're like, okay, I'm going to lead things and take charge and be decisive. And then at some point they're like, wow, I feel burned out. I feel tired and dry. And maybe they are struggling to find a male partner if that's what they want. And to me, these are a call to come back to their natural essence of feminine. So long story short, if you were the alien, I would say it's our culture. That the water that we're swimming in as fish is thinks that masculine qualities are more important than feminine qualities. And so we're like, okay, that's what we'll become. And that's why you see like women in power all wearing pantsuits and boxy shoulders, and it's like we're trying to be men, and it's killing us.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I'm not going to
But
go into women's health, but if you look up women's health statistics, it's insane. Like adrenal fatigue, to me, that's like you've been burning all your masculine energy and you're exhausted. Adrenal fatigue's up, breast cancers, all kinds of things like women's health that results from the imbalance inside of our own body.
Yeah, this might be a touchy topic, but we'll go there. Why not? Being in the feminine, we're discussing.
I love
Yeah,
touchy topics.
yeah, and there's this you would call an assertion that the third wave or whatever feminist movement has sold this idea that women can have it all, that there are no trade-offs, and maybe that's one way of looking at it. It's what's causing all this fatigue because there are limits to time, right, and energy and attention.
Right.
And if you're sold the lie that you can have the whole thing, maybe that's what's, I don't know. What is your experience with that?
I think it's a mean thing to tell yourself in a way, because it's like when I hear you can have it all, it's like, oh God, now I need to be it all. I need to be the successful mom. I need to be the successful businesswoman. I need to be the successful partner, and And I think which is just overwhelming. I hear that question. I'm like, that is a lot of pressure to put on yourself. Really, the question I would replace it with, if I may, is like, what do I want? What do I really want? Because maybe you don't want it all, whatever all society has defined. But maybe there's something more specific, more nuanced, and more manageable that you want.
Yeah, I totally agree, because you and I, we have this training on really working on our desires. And desires are very specific. Remember, like even making, can you make me tea? Each person has a very specific way of how they want the tea to be made.
Right.
So maybe we've been sold this lie that there is some abstract thing that we should all want. But that's not how desire works, right? Desire is very specific, and it may not make sense to anyone else except for you, right? For the person,
Yes, I love the tea example, because you're not like, I want all types of tea.
Bring
me all that would be unmanageable. You can't drink all types of tea.
And that would be shit. But if you combine all teas in one thing, it will taste like shit, because if you combine chai with rooibos with chamomile in one cup,
it wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what? This is terrible. But if you're like, I don't want it all, I want this specific thing, then A, it's more manageable, and B, it's way more fulfilling, because it's actually true to you.
Yeah. And so that's, and then something just came up again as we were talking. We can link this to the global situation, right? We're in this because we're fighting for these things that we're supposed to have. But if each of us just works on our specific thing, then there's no need to compete, because like you want different things, then I want different things. So we're not going to fight for the same thing because we're unique. I guess that's
exactly. Yeah. My partner and I were talking about this over dinner last night. It's like there's so many voices coming out of the whole coronavirus. There's the disease epidemiologist that's like, here's the status, here's the statistics. There's the documentary makers who are making inspiring videos. There's the comedians who are making like funny memes to lighten the mood. And I'm like, that's exactly how it's meant to be. Right? Like everyone's voice is so important, and it's different. But that's the same as nature. You know, I look out in the jungle, and every plant is so different. But that's what makes this beautiful symbiosis of the jungle.
Because you're there, you get reminded by it every day, I suppose.
I'll just give you a visual. Right? You can see how many different types of plants there are. It's not like a palm tree, like, I want it all. It can't be a palm tree and a rice field and a flower and a
like the coconut tree there is not trying to turn every plant there into coconuts, but we humans seem to be doing that. We want everyone to, no, this is the right way. So back to the retreats you're on, Can you give us an example of what happens, or if it's not secret?
Yeah. Some things are secret, but
Yeah,
some
yeah.
things are not.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I guess what I really love is that it takes women out of their everyday, like
Yep.
go to work, go to workout class, see your friends, and brings them into a totally different setting so that they can see themselves in a new way. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really the power of it, is like being able to see parts of themselves they haven't. So I'll give you both the concrete and the abstract. So
Mm-hmm.
concrete, like a day on the retreat, right? You wake up, we do morning practice, we do yoga and meditation, we have breakfast together, we do coaching circles in the morning, afternoons by the pool, journaling, connecting, evening activities, um, dance. A lot of it's around embodiment. So emotional, like feeling your emotions, your rage, your grief, dancing, embracing your sexuality, getting to know what you really want, and dinner. So that's the concrete, right? That's what we're doing. But what I'm seeing that happens as we're doing these things is the women are suddenly like, whoa, I'm far more powerful than I thought I was. And I want totally different things than I thought I did. Like one woman came in and she had just been accepted to an MBA program and it was pretty prestigious. And she's like, all right, yeah, I'm going to do the career track. And then in the course of the week, she's like, wait a second, that's not what I want at all. What I want is to start my own career counseling company where I help people find what their actual purpose is. Right. So she's like, the things I thought I want, maybe I don't want anymore.
It's beautiful, and I kind of link it to what you said earlier, that you need to remind women of their feminine side. It's because of the water they live in. So if you move someone out of that water to a blank slate water, or like a different kind of water, they might, So
I love that analogy.
which goes to show how our environment affects us so much, right?
So much. Because you think about it, like you're a person, you're living in your day to day, you're trying to tune into like, what are the deeper questions? Like, what do I really want? Do I want to stay in this marriage or to leave? Do I want to do this job or start my own company? Right? These are deep questions. Meanwhile, you're going to get bombarded with your parents' opinions, your friends' opinions, your daily routines. It's so hard to actually have the clarity on those deep questions while in your normal life.
Which
It's not impossible, but it's hard.
It's harder. It's like you're going against the grain kind of thing. It's not going against the flow. Which reminded me, like, I remember the first time I met you was in San Francisco, way back, and then I remember you were still doing corporate work at that time. You were in that pantsuit kind of vibe you had.
I was.
Yeah, I would be so curious to, if you could give us like your journey, how you came transformed from that corporate warrior to where you are now, where you have your own thing, right? Your own. You're doing your own thing, basically.
Yeah. Sure. Happy to. Well, I would say I'll start when I was a teenager, which I loved reading about love and sex. I used to have a teen advice column when I was 13 for people to like write in questions about their crushes, and I would respond.
That's so cute.
Right? Isn't it cute? And then, my favorite book was Why We Love. And so I've always been like a love geek. I'm just like, how do humans come together? How do we connect? Like what's the glue? But so then I studied psychology and neuroscience and leadership. And I was like, I don't know how to make a career on that, because I don't want to be a therapist. I don't want to just talk about problems, right? I want to talk about possibilities. And so I didn't see a viable path. So I found, luckily, this leadership consulting job. So it was amazing. They let me travel all over the world and design and facilitate seminars to executives and coach teams. And I love, I'm so grateful for that job, because it really gave me skills that I needed. Like, how do you design the arc of a week-long experience? And How do you
Mm.
hold the attention of a room, and how do you coach teams and notice the subtle dynamics between them? So
Mm.
that was that. But then at some point I was starting to feel like I don't really want to have these conversations, because we're talking about business and strategy and how to hit
Mm.
next quarter targets, and I'm like, it felt too surface to me. I was like, I want deep questions like, what's your
Mm.
calling on earth? What are you actually here to
Mm.
do? Are you fulfilled? Do you feel loved? And
Mm.
I was just like, there are deep questions I want to be having, and
Mhm.
I'm not sure that the corporate world is open for those questions yet. I think we're
Mm.
getting there.
Mhm.
You know, there's cool initiatives like Search Inside Yourself and some other cool programs, but they're not quite there yet. So
Mhm.
I was like, if I want to be going into these taboo areas, asking these big questions, I think I need to leave and start my own thing.
Mm.
So that's what I did. And it wasn't linear. I left and I lived on the land, a retreat center in Northern California, for a year,
Mhm.
and helped them with corporate training and how to bring
Mm.
connection and mindfulness into corporate training.
Mhm.
And then at some point, I got the call to go to Bali,
And you just did it.
which is its own story entirely. But yeah, and then I came to Bali, and that's when my business really started growing.
Wow. Amazing. And just follow the feeling. Is it how, I'm just curious how people make that big jump, because as you know, we're all, it's a lot of fear, like, oh, I can't leave my job. It's my structure, you know, there's a lot of that. So just curious to know how you overcame that, if you can.
Yeah. To me, the feeling gets louder.
All
That's
right.
how I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
it's true. You know, there's
Mm.
that great story. The universe first talks to you with a feather, a little whisper,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and then it throws a brick at you. And if you're still not listening, then you get run over by a truck. And that has so been my experience of life. And so it's a practice of mine, is turning to listen to the feathers, because I'm like, I would like to make it less painful. So I'll just
Mm.
give you a little example. I had the feeling to leave my job for probably a year before I really did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, but I'll just make X amount of money until I'm financially safe,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that means. Or like, then or yeah, once this project is done, or yeah. And then I just remember one weekend, it was Monday morning, and I was getting on the subway to go to work, and I just felt so nauseous. And I like threw up on the subway.
Mm.
And I never throw up. I almost never get sick. And I
Mm.
was like, this is interesting. So then I wrote an email to my colleagues. I was like, I can't come into the office today. I have to stay home. I went home and I felt immediately better. I didn't feel nauseous at
Mm.
all.
Mm.
And to me, I interpret that as like, oh, my body's just like, stop. We
Ah,
told
yeah,
you to
yeah.
stop going to work.
Mm.
So it was a couple days later when I finally sent the email and said, okay, I'm leaving in a couple months. But it was a
Amazing.
process. These changes are scary.
Mm.
The other thing I would say is I could not have done it without support.
Mm.
I had
Mm.
a coach, I had girlfriends that were cheering me on. I had like people that believed that I would be okay without my job. And
Mm.
I wouldn't have had the courage to quit without that.
Amazing. I like the fact that you mentioned the body. Yeah, it's also my experience that, I mean, it's easy to bullshit the mind, but the body is hard because it's like, it's gonna, when you're nauseous, you can't stop that. It's just happening, you know? It's involuntary, right? There's something interesting about the involuntary and how it interfaces with the voluntary.
Yeah. I love that you said that you can't bullshit the mind. Or you can bullshit the mind, but you can't bullshit the body.
Yeah.
I
And I
think
think it's
that's
happening with,
true.
I think this Wuhan virus is a wake up call. Like, you can have all these ideas about what the world should be, but when something biological hits you, it's like, what do you
Yeah.
do with that, you know?
And I think there's something, I just want to say one more thing. I think there's something really beautiful in the humility and the
Mm.
surrender of listening to our body, even when we don't understand exactly from our minds, right? Like,
Mm.
it's humbling it was humbling for me to throw up on the subway and be like, wow, I actually can't go to work. My body is rebelling. Even though my mind might have a different plan, like there's something deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of, I'm really grateful for our training on the limbic system, which is the more ancient kind of brain, which has been longer in evolutionary time than the neocortex. And and in a way, even Elon Musk says it, that the neocortex is in service to the limbic. Really, if you think about it, it's it's the man riding the elephant. The elephant is the older brain, and it's how we should learn to ride that. Oh, before I forget, so because you have this valuable experience of being both in corporate and in this personal development embodiment world, what do you think of? Some people are saying that there's a danger that a lot of this, we call it psychotechnologies, like mindfulness, psychedelics, yoga, and stuff like that, are now being co-opted, so that we'll take these technologies and then use it to make our employees more productive. You're like co-opting the desire world into the production world. What's your take on that? It's like, instead of I'm going to teach you mindfulness so you can find your own purpose, I'm going to teach you mindfulness so that you can work longer hours without getting tired, or something like that. Yeah. What's your take on that?
My take on that is these tools have a wisdom of their own. Is that like you could try to co-opt them for your own means. Like you could try to teach someone mindfulness to make them just productive at your job, but it won't work.
Amazing. I love this take on it.
Someone starts to use these tools and they get this new perspective and they have a certain awakening, they can't be tamed in the same way.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That landed in my body. I felt like, oh yeah.
And so I think it's great. I'm like, teach everyone mindfulness, teach everyone the power of psychedelics and yoga and psycho tools, because we need more people who are awake.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When I was a leadership consultant, the last thing I did was helping people start thinking about their purpose.
Yeah.
We would go into companies and work with execs, asking them big questions. And we always did it with the disclaimer, this person may decide to leave once it happens on their deeper purpose. It may not be with your company.
Yeah.
Are you willing to take that risk? And, the companies were like, we need people that are really bought into being here. And if it's not in their path, then better to know now than later.
Wow. That's a very enlightened companies. Like, wow. Amazing.
Some of them. Some of them were like, no, just keep them in their job.
At least you warned them. This may change everything. Yeah. Wow, thank you. It feels really, I'm receiving a lot of insight. I'm going to think about that. I think there's more for me to digest when you said that. Like, don't be afraid, because these things by their nature, it's hard to co-opt because you're awakening people, right? Yeah. I think I'm full. I've got a lot, unless you have something else to say, and I'm really open to that. You want to say?
No, I just want to say how much I enjoyed this conversation. I love the way that you connect the dots between different things we've talked about and big trends and little micro things. And so I really enjoyed talking with you. And no, I think that's it. If anyone watching this wants to reach out to me, they can.
Yeah, and we'll put links when I put this video up to your website. And I really like your booking system. It's very clear. Sometimes people like, oh, I want to connect with you, but how? And then you go on this long text messages, but with you it's clear. You just book a time and it happens. Feminine and masculine working together.
Right, exactly. I'm like, I don't want to handle any scheduling. Let's just make a system.
Yeah, I love it. So I want to thank you for the work you're doing. And in my view, this is very important. for everyone.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you're doing it.
Thank you. Me too.
Personally, I'm happy.
And you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your amazing jungle time there.
Thank you. You too. And
All right.
everyone watching this in quarantine, take good care of yourselves. Lots of love.
Lots of love. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.